Right, so we're going deep today, really deep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're diving into a recent Katt Williams interview.
Okay, which one?
You sent me that one, the Club Shay interview.
Oh, right, with Shannon Sharpe. Man, that's a wild one.
It is. This deep dive is going to be a wild ride, I can already tell.
I can't wait. So, Katt Williams, he's always been known for being outspoken and controversial, but in this interview, he really takes it to another level.
Yeah, he does. He's just like totally unfiltered, no holds barred. And what's interesting is that he's explicitly using this platform to kind of set the record straight.
Right. He's addressing some stuff from other comedians like Ricky Smiley and Cedric the Entertainer.
Exactly. He's like calling them out, and it gets pretty intense.
Well, in the comedy world, reputation is everything,
Yeah.
right?
And he's definitely not afraid to defend his.
So where do we even begin with this?
Well, I think the best place to start is with the whole Friday After Next controversy.
Oh, yeah, with Money Mike. That's where things get really interesting.
It's a classic. Honestly, his portrayal of Money Mike is iconic.
Absolutely. So you have Ricky Smiley making these claims that he was initially supposed to play Money Mike and that Katt Williams was actually going to have a smaller role as Santa Claus.
Hold on, Smiley as Money Mike.
I know, right? It's hard to even imagine.
I can't picture it at all. And Williams, of course, pushes back hard on these claims.
He does. He goes into a lot of detail about how he basically created the character of Money Mike from the ground up, like rewriting dialogue and even designing that super memorable wardrobe.
Pink, fluffy coat.
That's the one. And what's even more fascinating is he reveals this whole behind-the-scenes fight to get a scene removed.
The scene where Money Mike is.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Williams felt strongly that it was totally out of line with the character and the overall comedic tone of the movie. He really fought to protect the integrity of Money Mike.
And it makes you wonder, right? Like, what's Smiley's motivation here? Why bring this up now after all these years?
Yeah, especially because none of the other Friday cast members have corroborated his claims.
It's all very suspicious.
For sure. So we have this Friday After Next controversy, and then Williams moves on to address Cedric the Entertainer.
And that's a whole other can of worms.
It is. Williams accuses Cedric of stealing a joke, a very specific joke.
The one about being disappointed in the black community.
Exactly. Williams says he spent a ton of time crafting that joke, working on it with Mark Curry.
Wow, taking it seriously.
Yeah, he says it became a huge hit on Betty's Comic View, was even in commercials and everything. Then, according to Williams, Cedric uses the exact same joke.
Verbatim.
That's what he claims, yeah, on Kings of Comedy. So, obviously, Cedric has defended himself, but there are these inconsistencies in the timeline that he presents.
You know, it does make you think about how memories can be kind of unreliable sometimes, especially when talking about something that happened so long ago.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was decades ago. And look, I'm not saying who's right or wrong here, but this whole situation, it just brings up some important questions about originality, you know?
And the pressure on black comedians to kind of walk this tightrope.
Yeah, absolutely. To be funny, but also to be authentic, but also to not be too threatening, you know?
It's a tough line to walk, for sure.
For sure. And speaking of walking a tough line, Williams goes on to drop a pretty big bombshell. He talks about Steve Harvey quitting stand-up.
Wait, what? What about it?
Well, he claims it wasn't because of all of Harvey's other success.
You mean like Family Feud and all that?
Yeah, exactly. Williams says Harvey actually quit because he lost a comedy battle to him.
Seriously?
Yeah, apparently it was this big event in Detroit. Something like 10,000 people were there.
Wow. And Williams won.
That's what he claims. And get this. He even says he exposed Harvey for wearing a wig during the battle.
Okay, hold on a second. Steve Harvey quit stand-up because of one lost battle. Come on, that just seems a little...
extreme.
Yeah, a little dramatic even for Katt Williams.
It does, right. But remember, this is all from Katt Williams' perspective, and we all know he's not exactly known for being subtle.
True. Very true. It is interesting to hear his side of the story, though, even if it might be a bit exaggerated.
It definitely highlights the competitive nature of the comedy world and, how deeply personal these battles can get.
And I guess it makes sense, right? You put your heart and soul into your act. It's got to sting if someone else gets more laughs than you.
Especially on such a big stage with so much at stake.
Okay, so it's not all battles and drama, though, right? Williams also talks about his approach to comedy in general. And that's where you see a different side of him.
Definitely. He actually comes across as quite thoughtful and even philosophical.
So what does he say about his approach?
He talks about really tailoring his shows to the specific audience, showing that he can be both clean and edgy depending on the setting. And he emphasizes that he always, always writes fresh material.
That's got to be tough to keep coming up with new stuff all the time.
Yeah, but it speaks to his dedication to the craft. He's not just phoning it in, he's always striving to be better.
He seems like a true student of comedy.
Yeah, he is. He even talks about how he used to analyze other comedians' sets, literally counting their laughs per minute to see what worked and what didn't.
Really? Wow, I can't even imagine doing that. He's almost like a scientist, meticulously studying his subject.
It's a data-driven approach to comedy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But I guess it speaks to this whole theme of authenticity that he keeps coming back to. He's all about being real, being genuine, and putting in the work.
Right. And that really resonates with audiences because we all crave that authenticity, don't we?
Absolutely. We want comedians who are pushing boundaries, keeping things fresh, making us think and feel. And Williams definitely does that.
He does, although he can push a little too far sometimes.
Yeah, like for instance, he talks about this incident he had with Wanda Sykes during a radio interview.
Oh man, that was a rough one.
It was. Apparently, they'd agreed beforehand to keep the interview positive, but then during the actual interview, he felt like Sykes totally blindsided him with all these aggressive questions.
It sounds like it turned into a really uncomfortable situation for both of them.
Yeah, Williams even talks about feeling betrayed and analyzing Sykes' intentions. And the whole thing kind of blew up, with a lot of people, especially in the LGBTQ plus community, taking issue with Williams' stance.
It's a good example of how challenging it can be to navigate difficult conversations, especially in a public setting.
Definitely. And it also ties back into the pressures and expectations that Black comedians face, you know.
Right. They're expected to be role models, to represent their community, to speak on social issues, and sometimes their attempts to speak their truth can be misinterpreted or lead to backlash.
It's a complex dynamic for sure.
Absolutely.
So there we have it, the Friday controversy, the stolen joke, Steve Harvey's wig, the Wanda Sykes incident. What else is there?
Oh, there's more.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Williams doesn't hold back. Next up, he talks about his relationship with Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Oh, wow, that's a whole other topic.
It is, and it's one that's really personal to him. He refers to Farrakhan as a father figure and talks about their close bond.
Yeah, it's important to remember that public figures have personal beliefs and connections that shape their worldview. And Williams is clearly not afraid to share his.
Exactly, and it just shows that he's multifaceted, right? He's a comedian, but he's also a spiritual person, and he's deeply connected to his community.
It's all part of what makes him such a compelling figure.
Right. He's complicated, he's controversial, but he's always, always authentic.
That he is. So what else do we have to unpack from this interview?
Well, there's a lot more. We haven't even gotten to his personal philosophy, his acts of generosity, or his views on, well, pretty much everything.
Okay, I'm ready for it. Bring on the truth bombs.
We'll be back in just a moment to dive even deeper into this fascinating conversation with Katt Williams. All right, so we're back, and man, there's just so much to unpack with Katt Williams.
Yeah, this interview is like a roller coaster. Ups, downs, twists, turns. You never know what he's going to say next.
And what strikes me is this theme of authenticity that keeps coming up. He's constantly calling out other comedians for, like, not being real, not being true to themselves or to the craft of comedy.
It's like he's got this BS detector that's always on high alert.
Totally. And he seems especially annoyed by those who, talk a big game but don't actually put in the work.
Yeah, like they're all about the fame and the money, but not about the art itself.
Exactly. And he sees that as a symptom of a larger problem in the entertainment industry, this whole culture of shortcuts and image crafting.
Like a facade, right?
Yeah.
A shiny surface with nothing underneath.
Yeah, and he constantly contrasts that with his own approach. He's super meticulous, super dedicated.
You can tell he takes comedy seriously. Remember how he used to analyze other comedians' sets?
Oh, yeah, counting their laughs per minute.
That's insane. But it shows you how much he cares about the craft.
It's like he's a comedic scientist, always experimenting and refining his formulas.
And that drive for excellence extends beyond his own work. He talks about wanting to elevate other talented comedians who share that same work ethic.
Right. He mentions taking over 40 comedians on tour with him, giving them a chance to earn a living, gain exposure.
And he emphasizes that he wants them to remain independent. He's not trying to control them or take a cut of their earnings.
It's more about mentorship, about empowering them to build their own success.
Which is a really interesting contrast to what he describes as the, more exploitative aspects of the industry.
Right, the traditional power structures that he's always pushing back against.
He's seen firsthand how those structures can silence artists, exploit their talent.
And he's not afraid to call it out, even if it means risking his own career.
He even talks about turning down millions of dollars to protect his integrity, his values.
That's a powerful statement.
It is, like, my soul is not for sale.
And that conviction, that fearlessness, it seems to be rooted in his faith. He often talks about God, about living a righteous life.
Yeah, remember, he said his goal in coming to Hollywood was to remain God's friend amidst all the temptations.
That's pretty profound.
It is. It's like he's saying, I'm not going to lose myself in this game. I'm going to stay true to who I am.
And that faith also informs his social activism. He's very outspoken about his commitment to Black empowerment, using his comedy to address social injustices.
He's not just trying to make people laugh, he's trying to make them think.
He talks about the systemic racism that Black people face, the exploitation of Black talent.
And he also expresses frustration with the division within the Black community.
He's calling for unity, for collective action.
And he's not just talking about it, he's putting his money where his mouth is.
Yeah, those acts of generosity he talks about, like adopting 7 children.
And sponsoring Laura Harden's Hollywood Walk of Fame star.
It's like a secret Robin Hood of Hollywood, redistributing wealth and recognition.
It really makes you question how much we really know about the people we see on screen, you know.
Like, are we just seeing a curated version of them, or is there more beneath the surface?
It's a good question. Does understanding the person behind the persona enhance or complicate our appreciation of their art?
That's something to ponder.
It is. And we'll be back in just a moment to continue pondering this and explore some final thoughts on Katt Williams and his unfiltered truth. We're back, and honestly, my head is spinning a little bit. Katt Williams really gives you a lot to think about.
He does. It's not just entertainment. It's like a social commentary masterclass wrapped in comedy.
Yeah, and one of the things that stuck with me was his take on cancel culture. He's got a really interesting perspective on it.
Well, he's been on both sides of it, right? He's been called out and he's called others out.
Exactly. So he's not totally against it. You know, he acknowledges that there are certain behaviors that need to be addressed, consequences and all that.
But he also points out the potential for, like, hypocrisy and how the consequences don't always seem to be applied fairly.
Yeah, he brought up Jonathan Majors, for example, who got dropped from projects super quickly after those assault allegations.
Right, and he contrasted that with others who have been accused of similar things but haven't faced the same level of backlash.
Makes you wonder if there's more to it, right?
Yeah, like maybe Major's rising success was a threat to some people, so they were quicker to,
To cancel him.
Exactly, and that ties back into Williams's whole critique of the industry, right?
Like, it's not always about justice, it's about power.
Right. Who has it? Who's trying to keep it? Who's trying to get it?
And Williams's advice to artists is basically to be aware of that, to build a strong foundation, to develop their craft, to stay true to their values.
He's all about empowerment, encouraging artists to take control of their own narratives, their own careers.
And to support each other, build community.
Exactly. It's not just about individual success, it's about collective upliftment.
So after this deep dive into Katt Williams's world, what are we left with?
A lot of questions, for sure. But also a sense of hope, maybe? Yeah, like if someone like Katt Williams can navigate this crazy industry and stay true to himself, maybe we can too.
He reminds us that humor can be a weapon against injustice, that authenticity matters, that integrity has value.
And he leaves us with this big question, right? Can we truly separate an artist's work from their personal beliefs and actions?
It's a tough one, but it's a conversation worth having.
Absolutely. And that's what we're all about here, right? Diving deep, questioning assumptions, exploring the complexities of the world around us.
So keep those conversations going, folks. Keep thinking, keep questioning, keep challenging yourselves and each other.
And keep laughing, of course.
Always. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Katt Williams. We'll catch you next time.